delivered a series of tranches of ventilators and other personal protective equipment, but we continue to be shy on all fronts, and we are constantly and persistently not just asking the White House from the federal stockpile for more support, but also turning over every stone in New Jersey, around the country, and frankly, around the world.
Oh, that's New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy talking about the shortage of medical protective equipment for our frontline medical nurses and doctors. You know, the Minneapolis Star Tribune echoed what many of us feel around the country. The paper says the shortage of protective medical gear for our doctors and nurses is, quote, a national disgrace. Well, here on the Fox News channel on weekends, we've been highlighting groups that have stepped in to help. One of those is Mask for Docs Foundation. You know, it has worked around the globe. But now the focus of Mask for Docs is right here at home. The Mask for Docs Foundation tweeted this, that its volunteers delivered personal protective equipment known as PPE to the New York City area this week, including more than 2,000 shields, more than 5,000 masks, and they are operating all over the country. With us is the Mask for Docs founder, Chad Loader. He's in Los Angeles. Chad, good to see you. Thank you for doing the Lord's work. How did you see the need, and how did Mask for Docs start this when you've been all over the world, like even in Libya?
Yeah, we were paying attention to this virus pretty early on back in late January, and I have a friend who is an ICU nurse in Bergamo in Italy, right where the epicenter of their disaster was happening. And he would call me every night and tell me about his shift that day, and I felt like I was living in the future, about 4 or 5 weeks in the future of what was going to happen here in the U.S. So we started a group online, which started with just about 10 people, to see where we could get masks and face shields and other protective gear directly to the healthcare workers in the front line.
And you can do that. People can go on the website, maskfordocs.com. And you started chapters around the country. You're doing something really unusual. I mean, you're using bikers, motorcycle guys and gals, women, bikers to get the stuff to the doctors. What, they just drive right up to the side of the emergency room?
That's right. It started in New York City, actually. We had a group of a motorcycle club who volunteered to go collect masks and other protective equipment from donors who had this stuff at home or in their businesses, but who maybe couldn't leave home due to the lockdown orders. And so our bikers would put on their own masks and then put their helmets on over that, drive out to places as far as Long Island and other parts of the New York City metro area, and then collect all that stuff in one location and then fan out across the city to bring that equipment directly to the doctors and nurses in Brooklyn and Manhattan and the other boroughs. And the motorcycles come in really handy because you don't have to double park, you don't have to worry about traffic, and you can drive right up through the gate of the hospital and to the side door and have the doctor come down and physically put that stuff in their hands.
That's fantastic. You're doing it in Los Angeles. Mayor Garcetti praised your group. You're doing it in Chicago. How do people get involved? You've even said just one person in one city or town can help.
That's right. So the way that we work is in a chapter model in one city, and you can get personal protective equipment from the reservoirs where it exists in that city already in businesses like veterinarians, dentists, tattoo parlors, nail salons, in people's emergency preparedness kits at home. And we can collect that and then distribute it directly to the doctors and nurses. And we also have teams who are making 3D printed face shields using these 3D printers. This thing slips on your head. It's a little bit about 10 grams of plastic. And you can take an overhead transparency and you can punch 3 holes in it with a standard 3-hole punch. You've got yourself a face shield that can be reused. And we have people, hundreds of 3D printing enthusiasts across the country doing that. And we also have folks who are sewing fabric masks, which can be used for non-essential or essential workers who are in the front lines who don't need those N95 masks.
That's absolutely fantastic. Chad, can you show that again? And if someone has a 3D printer, I mean, libraries have 3D printers, companies have 3D printers. What do you do, and how do you make that? And then how do they get in touch with you to make that so we can protect medical workers?
Sure. We have a volunteer form on our site, masksfordocs.com, FORDOCS.com. and you can volunteer on there. You can donate money. You can donate your protective equipment. And if you're a doctor, nurse, or someone working as a healthcare worker somewhere in the front lines, you can also request help for your hospital. We have files online that you can download and put into your 3D printer, and then you just run that pattern through your 3D printer, and it will just take its time and print those things. And we're printing thousands.
That's absolutely fantastic. There's some of the sites, folks. Chad, I'm showing them on the screen. Maskfordocs.com is your group. So if you have access to a 3D printer, go on that. You can also donate money directly to Maskfordocs.com, and they can buy material. And if you got a biker, if you know a biker, if you're in a motorcycle club, all right, contact Mask4Docs. The AFIAFoundation.org was also there, and masks.match. We, by the way, have raised more than $100,000 for the AFIAFoundation.org. We, by that I mean that's you, Fox News viewers, the generosity and goodwill of Fox News viewers. Thank you for helping Fox News viewers. Chad Loader, thank you for doing what you're doing at maskfordocs.com. So needed. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Eric.
Arthel?
Great. Well, a pandemic does not stop Mother Nature. There are powerful storms raking the southeast today, with millions under threat from large hail and possibly tornadoes. A live report on that is up next.
When you get Holy Week from their homes. You know, with social distancing rules keeping them away from their houses of worship. This has caused priests and ministers around our nation to hold Easter services in mostly empty churches. Some of them are using social media platforms to deliver their important message. Chief Religion Correspondent Lauren Green, live here in New York City, with more on what Americans are doing to keep the faith on this Easter Sunday. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Eric. Well, you know, this Easter Sunday is one for the history books. It will go down as the year a public health crisis forced churches to go online on their highest and holiest day of the year.
God is real and he's good and he's our comforter. And as we celebrate the risen Christ, today's a good day to hold on to God and to trust him in the midst of all that we are going through.
At the City Line Church in Jersey City, New Jersey, the energy of Easter was apparent even if the services streamed online from inside his home. The coronavirus forcing nearly all churches to close their doors on this day. There are more than 300,000 churches in the U.S., and according to Lifetime Research, more than 90% have shuttered their doors and gone online, like Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C.
While the coronavirus precautions do not allow our many friends to join us in person to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord this day, I am delighted that we're able to come to you, come into your home for Easter Mass.
But there are churches that have defied the ban, believing the church is essential as a grocery store, that feeding the human soul and community is as important as food for the body. But it's not just churches affected. The Jewish Passover has gone online too. The Seder meal central to the celebration is also getting help from online resources. Now, houses of worship will be able to open, but how soon, no one is really certain. But many are already planning for next year's celebrations and how they will be a renewed and deeper sense of gratefulness. Eric?
Yeah, there certainly will be once everyone is back. Lauren, thank you. Arthel?
Well, Eric, another story of inspiration this Easter Sunday amid a worldwide pandemic. A pastor from a church in Long Island City, which is just across the East River from Manhattan, created a coronavirus relief organization to help feed those in need in his area. Well, that pastor himself coming down with coronavirus symptoms, but that didn't stop the organization from giving back. Joining me now is Pastor Patrick Thompson of New City Church of Long Island City in Queens, New York. So happy to have you. We're going to jump right in because I understand that you recently formed Long Island City Relief, less than a month ago, co-founded with a PTA leader in the area, Kelly Craig. What made you start this ministry, and tell us about the people you serve?
Yeah, it really started with a phone call that Kelly reached out to me and she works in crisis management, and she knew that there were going to be some big issues coming and some long-term ramifications in our neighborhood and in Western Queens. And Kelly and I had worked together on some different activities here in the neighborhood before. And we said, what can we do? And we put our heads together and we said, let's form a relief group that can meet the needs for the long haul that are going to be present here in Western Queens. And so we said, how do we mobilize people, mobilize resources? How do we restock food pantries? And more than anything, how do we feed people that are in vulnerable situations? And so we put together an idea to reach out to local restaurants, local grocery stores, to get together our neighborhood and put together an effort where neighbors are helping neighbors. And that's really what got this started.
Excellent, excellent. And I understand that folks can come and pick up food from your locations, and then some of the, as you said, the local restaurants you're working with, they can go there, and you also deliver to some of your people as well, right?
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things of this model is the restaurant model, where we've raised enough money to pay restaurants $5 a meal to produce hot, nutritious meals that are, next week we'll be producing 4,600 meals next week. 75% of those meals are distributed in New York City Housing Authority areas. 25% of those meals are picked up locally. A large portion of those meals are also going to medical personnel on the front lines. And at the same time, we're investing in our local neighborhood. Every week, we're spending $15,000 of money generously raised from our local neighborhood that goes back into our local economy, and that immediately feeds people. Our local food seller grocery store is restocking our food distribution center 2 or 3 times a week, and we're using those goods to go out and restock ongoing pantries that are already in the neighborhood. And then we're working with other local organizations that are doing delivery out to people that just can't get out of their apartments because they're in vulnerable situations. We knew we couldn't solve everything in this crisis, but we knew we could solve something. And we decided to take on this project of Neighbors Helping Neighbors to make sure people are taken care of in vulnerable situations.
And that is indeed a lot. So you, I'm sure you're recovered now. You worked, though, while you were sick with coronavirus. You were doing emails, communicating through social platforms. But still, you were self-isolated. What commitments did you renew to yourself, your family, and to your ministry?
Yeah, I'm telling you that it was 3 weeks ago today that I went into isolation, had the test, and a few days later received a positive diagnosis. And I probably was a little bit over the average of how people are dealing with this. I didn't have to be hospitalized or go into the emergency room. But I was off of my feet and in the bed for about 4 or 5 days, really with symptoms that come at you all at once, very quickly, multiple symptoms. And it doesn't just hit you physically, it hits you mentally as well. And it makes you ask a lot of questions about, faith and family and just what you're walking through. And I know for me, it was a journey as a pastor, as a person of faith. Your first question is always why? Why is this happening, God? Why is our country, is our world going through this? Why am I going through this?
I want to jump in there, Pastor, because I want to jump in because I do have that question that I want to pose to you. For those of us who believe, what is God telling us through this pandemic?
It boiled down to me, Arthella, that it's a trust, to learn to trust him more. That's not an easy answer. It's not something that's going to make this go away. But as a person of faith, I'm in a completely uncontrollable situation right now. As I got this virus, it put me in a completely uncontrollable place in my life. And it really strengthened my faith to have to realize I have to trust somebody beyond me. I have to trust in the Lord beyond myself. And that's what brought me peace. It was in my broken nature and my broken sickness at that time that I truly experienced the most peace, because I realized there's nothing I can do to control this. It's something I have to trust the creator of the universe to control and walk me through. And that doesn't make those that have passed away any less serious or any less faithful. It's really a point of, we deal with tragedy. Our world has been filled with tragedy from day one. And some of us have lived in isolated places as away from that tragedy. but it's hitting us firsthand now. And as a pastor in New York City, there are plenty of people asking me, why is this going on? And I can't tell you the why, but I can tell you what I'm learning. And what I'm learning is that through this, God can sustain us, God can encourage us. And I pray that on the other side of this, we come out stronger, more compassionate people and more compassionate churches as well.
Amen to that. licrelief.org is your organization if you want to donate, help out. The pastor is doing fantastic work. God bless you. Thank you, sir. Eric.
Thank you, Arthel.
So well put, Pastor. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Well, as hospitals continue to struggle with those shortages, thousands of you, well, you are stepping up to help donate personal protective equipment to those who need it so much. Our weekly weekend look at a different charity doing just that is up next, and we'll show you how they use bikers to help our doctors and nurses. We'll be right back.